We've had a perspective determined by this reality, which is like this, for a very long time. It's time for us to change our perspective. If you have a beyond this reality perspective, it gives you a perspective like this, where you can see everything from a different place. And this is what I'm inviting you to. That's a totally fucking beyond this reality awareness. That's a beyond this reality possibility, but that's where all of the magic lives. Right now, the door to the universe is open. We just need to walk through it and start exploring that. Time for a totally new and different perspective. In the last month for me, my whole world has just exploded. And, I've said many times in the past, if you do access consciousness, you could be doing it for 10 years and you could have one awareness that outdoes, that's greater than all the change you got over 10 years. And I wasn't kidding. I've had that happen many times. And 19 years in, it just gets greater. Dear Lord, talk about some massive shifts and transformation going on. There's this sense of wanting to contribute to you all an awareness, something totally different being available and possible. And what I see is I see people who have their perspective on the smallness of life rather than the largeness of what's possible. Now, that can sound like just words. In other words, can sound like, oh yeah, well, that's easy for you to say. You get to facilitate around the world and you interact with lots of people and all blah blah, whatever the shit is behind that. But what I'm trying to convey is we've had a perspective determined by this reality, which is like this, for a very long time. It's time for us to change our perspective. What I would invite you to, and invite you to the awareness of, that is actually possible. I've seen it a lot in people who do access. They'll come to a class, they'll come to a bars class, foundation, ESB, SOP, 7-day, Maestro, like whatever, and they go to their world and everything looks different. Like they'll have conversations with people, and instead of the conversation being about instead of it going to this contracted place, there's just a sense of space with it. And you realize in those moments that reality truly is malleable and changeable, and we're the ones determining how it shows up. How do we determine that? With our point of view, and also, if I could call it, our collective of points of view, which is our perspective on things. And so I've said for a very long time, your point of view creates your reality. Reality does not create your point of view. Like, did you notice the lightning out there? Was that awesome? Oh my goodness. If it's going to be cloudy like this, it might as well do lightning and thunder from my point of view. So the idea, the awareness that your point of view creates your reality, what happens is, what we've been doing is we've been having such a small friggin' perspective. And so let me give an example. One of the things that occurred for me over many years, my business partner, a lot of you know, best friend, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, we've been business partners and best friends for almost 20 years now. One of the things that would occur between us was this thing about money. Now, it used to be different things and we sort of got rid of those over the years. And then there was this pervasive thing about money, and we were just like, we had such different perspectives on it. And now I have way more of his perspective and he has more of mine, which is interesting. But before, we were holding on to our own perspective and all we could see was through the eyes of this reality. And so we were in Rome, and we were in the back in a private room in a restaurant, thank goodness. And we were yelling at each other like Italians. I blame it on Rome personally, but anyway. So this was a charged subject with us. And we were going back and forth, and he was saying this and I'm like, no. And because I got to a point where I'm like, I'm not buying anybody's point of view about anything anymore, including Gary's. And so I was like, no, which always was different in the past. I would go, yeah, you're right, and I'm wrong. This time I'm like, no, this is not correct, blah, 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 blah. And so we were yelling at each other. And Simone, our worldwide coordinator, happened to be there, and she kind of raises her hand and she says, excuse me, like not wanting us to yell at her, probably. No, she was contributing. And she said, guys, it seems like what this really is about is more about acknowledgement. And I went, oh my God, that's so true. Like, I'm feeling Gary's not acknowledging me. He feels like I'm not acknowledging him and what he's contributed. I felt like he wasn't acknowledging me and what I had contributed. And before that, we had talked about having to function beyond this reality. So Gary thinks for a minute and he goes, okay, so what beyond this reality acknowledgement are we not giving each other? And we were having tears of gratitude, hugging each other after running this twice. Now, what that made me aware of, and what I've tried to convey to people ever since that moment, was if you have a beyond this reality perspective, it gives you a perspective like this, where you can see everything from a different place. And this is what I'm inviting you to. Like, I literally can perceive the possibilities for the world, and especially all those of you who are desiring more consciousness, who are choosing more consciousness. The possibilities are changing and have changed, and they've changed. Okay, something different is available, but if you don't acknowledge it and you don't choose from that difference, you're going to still get this. Okay, so this is now available. You have to acknowledge it and choose from that, otherwise you'll still get this. Okay, what I realize and what I've been talking to people about, and it's for the most part, it's fallen on deaf ears, is to try to get them to use this question with everything. What beyond this reality possibilities are available I haven't acknowledged? What beyond this reality acknowledgement are we not giving each other? What beyond this reality awareness do I have? What beyond this reality choices do I have? What beyond this reality being am I? Do you notice what beyond this reality blank is available that I either haven't acknowledged or haven't chosen? Or I'm not allowing myself to be aware of. Anything, like what beyond this reality way to change my money situation is available that I've never acknowledged or chosen. It wasn't just that, but there were several things that occurred with that beyond this reality conversation that Gary and I had, because when I get a new process, I start using it in everything. Why? Because even if it doesn't work, I haven't lost anything. But if it does work, I've changed something major most of the time. So please allow yourself to use this stuff and just try it out and see what shows up. So here's this reality, right? Um, the reality of consciousness, the more conscious you become, your reality, the space of your reality starts to expand and expand and expand and expand. And there's no limit. I mean, really, we're just getting started. So here's this reality. In this reality is where judgment lives, which is where right and wrong lives. And this is a huge thing, whether you know it or not. Most of your life has been trying to be right. Most of the interactions you have in most relationships are about trying to be right and to not be wrong. We're so vested in this. This is all part of this reality. This is also, though, where physical problems start becoming real for people. This is also this is the place where physical problems get created and they stay and you can't change them. This is the place where emotional problems, money problems, anything called a problem exists here. Okay. Now, should you choose to expand your consciousness and awareness, what happens is you go beyond this reality, and anywhere in which you're beyond this reality, your problems fade away and disappear. What? Anyway, in which you're beyond this reality, remember, all the problems are here. Your problems fade and disappear. And notice how when you're doing this reality thing, you feel so contracted. Like if you're doing I'm judging me for not being good enough. I'm judging me for not being smart enough. Judging me for not being sexy enough. I'm judging, period. That's in this reality. Beyond this reality is this space, this consciousness, joy, peace, possibilities, allowance, true vulnerability, honoring you and others, trust of you and others in your awareness, gratitude. All of these things exist beyond this reality. So when I'm talking about beyond this reality, when you ask for that, when you run a process for that, or you ask a question about that, what you're doing is you're accessing the being that you are that knows this is actually what is true. This thing doesn't have to be true for you anymore. Okay. But you're going to have to choose it. You're going to have to explore it. Above all, you're going to have to be willing to be different enough and weird enough to actually have that as your reality. Because if you're not, here's where no difference lies. This is where you try to fit in. This is where you buy people's judgments of you and you align and agree with them, or you resist and react to them. You make them significant. Out here, judgment is irrelevant. It's a totally non-relevant construct. And why would you, if you were this, why would you work so hard to compress yourself so you could make yourself judge you or anybody else, or your body, or the person you're in relationship with, or your money situation, or your family, or anything else? With this awareness, all of those things that don't work are here. What we require to make things work is a beyond this reality perspective. We'll have lots of people come to Access in some major area of their life where their body changes, something they've had forever. And I've seen things change that nobody else in the world has the tools to change. And it's so friggin' cool to see it being available. And as easy as it is, with consciousness at the forefront, everything is fucking possible.